Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to part 3 of the special edition of Real Talk, talking about issues which I know, whether you like it or not, is going to affect everyone in our community, particularly in the South Asian community, because we like to own our own homes. And that is an asset that in the event that anyone, if we end up in a care home situation or in old age when we can't look after ourselves, and our children maybe not living close by to look after ourselves, or they won't have the ability or the capacity to be able to do so, and we have to go into a care home, then our asset, the thing that we have worked all our life for, to build with the intention that when we die we'll pass it on to our children so they can benefit from it, is likely to be lost in the event that we have more than £23,200 as an asset, not just in cash sitting in a bank, but the property itself, if it was worth more than £23,200, which inevitably it will be, because nowadays the average price of a house is around £240,000 to £250,000. That property is likely to be taken under the control of the local authority and then sold upon the death of the individual and sold to openly in the open market, and they will then take the charges that have incurred looking after that particular individual in a care home, plus interest, by the way. And the chances are that if you've been in the care home for 5 or 6 years, then the amount that your children will get will be a pittance compared to what the value of the property has been. So we've been talking about these issues, and inshallah I will come back to it, because this is something, as I say, I'm really of the belief that many people in our community are going to be caught out with this over the next few years. But there are ways of trying to prevent some of those things happening, i.e. losing your property. And I have this very esteemed lawyer, Nassim Karim from Platinum Partnership, who's been giving us some advice and guidance. Now, we talked about common joint tenants in common, and how you may want to sort of protect those properties and your assets. But let me just turn to something else in the time that we have, and that is called lasting power of attorneys. Now, this is something that I had not heard of until a few years ago, that in the event of somebody becoming ill, where they cannot make decisions themselves, then you have to decide who is going to make a decision for you. And the case, why it came to me was there was a young man, English young man, who became suddenly very ill and went into a coma. And the husband and wife talked about this over many years, and that is to say, if I become ill and I put in the ventilator, make sure that they switch off the ventilator. When he did become ill and they put him in the ventilator, the wife said, my husband always said to me, I don't want to be kept alive on a ventilator. And the doctor says, do you have it in writing? And she says, no. And the doctor refused to do what she asked them to do, ended up in court, and the court decided in favor of the doctors. And the person was on a ventilator for months, eventually died. And the wife was distraught. Now, had she had a written consent from the husband, then the doctors would have taken into consideration what he had wanted to do, and that is to make sure that he's not kept alive on a ventilator, for a long time. Now, this is where the lasting power of attorney comes into play, doesn't it, Nasreen? And there are two types of lasting power of attorney. One is in relation to health, the other one is in relation to finance. If you become ill, as I say, and you can't make decision, and all your assets are in your name in a bank account, nobody in your family will be able to touch it. But if you had a lasting power of attorney in finance, then the people that you designate can access that money, but also they can go to the doctor and say, my father, my mother did not want to stay on a ventilator, be kept alive on a ventilator, and therefore, we've decided that the ventilator should be switched off. Now, is that true, madam, or is that false?
Yes, 99.9%
Thank you very much.
true.
Thank you.
Almost. The major difference is that you have to have capacity to give a power of attorney.
To make the lasting power of attorney in the first place.
Yeah, you must have capacity to make a lasting power of attorney, and there are two. One is health and welfare, and the other one is for finance. I know about these because I had to do them 2 years ago for my mum. So my mum became bedridden. She'd always had her own bank account. She'd always had her own card. She'd go off to Al Halal supermarket, take her money out and go spend her money. But when she became very ill, she was bedridden, and it was impossible for me to try to sort out her finances. Even when I tried to speak to the bank with my mum next to me, She was 87, she's blind, she's deaf, she doesn't speak the language. How is she going to give consent? It was really difficult. We then went down the route of going to the bank together and having me added under a power of attorney that the bank has.
Right.
And they lost all the documents and we weren't able to do that either. It was just horrendous. And then as a last resort, it was lasting power of attorney. So I actually created 2 power of attorneys for my mum. One was for her health and the other one was for her finance. Both of them have to be registered with the Office of Public Guardian, otherwise they are ineffective.
Yep.
You need to send yours off.
I know, I've done all the paperwork. I just need to register them. That's it.
It's so important. You can either do them yourselves, like you have, or you can come and see a solicitor like me. I've done many over the last 12 or so months, where you give the solicitor instructions. You have to have an independent witness. That person must have capacity. The court fee is, the Office of Public Guardian fee, the OPG fee, is £82. You pay a solicitor our fees. You get it sent off. It takes quite a few months to get it back. So if you're thinking somebody may need one soon, please do it sooner rather than later. My mum's took 8 months before it was registered at the Office of Public Guardian. I've done some recently and they've taken maybe 5 or 6 months, but it's not something you're going to get done quickly.
Right.
So you must think about these things in advance. And then also,
I better make a move then.
You need to make a move because they just take so long. But then the advantage of doing a lasting power of attorney is that if you lose capacity in the future, somebody already is your attorney. So you don't have to go to the next stage. Now, the next stage, where you don't have capacity, is a court of protection, which is a much more long-winded, expensive exercise.
I've been told it's very expensive.
The court fee alone is over £400.
Right.
Compare that to the
And I've been told most of the
OPG
money
fee.
goes to the lawyers because they have to fight each other.
Sometimes, if there's a deputy already, then you have to remove that deputy who may be a solicitor, but then, for example, that's what I've had to do for my recent ones. But if it's a new application, it's an application to the court.
Right.
You're going to be paying £1,500, £2,000 plus for a court of protection application. Now compare that to the lasting power of attorney.
Exactly.
Isn't it much more sensible for you to do it whilst that person still has capacity? Because when that person loses capacity, I keep getting asked this question all the time. Well, I think my mum has capacity. Can you please do it? Absolutely not. If it isn't clear to me 100% that person has capacity, I'm not going to entertain a lasting power of attorney. It has to go through the court of protection, which is very long-winded, much more expensive. So those are the 2 main distinct power of attorneys that you have. So
let's say people don't have the ability to do it online because they haven't got the wherewithal, and they want to do it through a lawyer firm, like yourself. What are the fees we're talking about roughly?
So
because there's £82.50 is the government's fees, basically.
So it could be anything between £400 and £600 plus VAT per power of attorney.
Right, okay.
And then we are responsible for completing, submitting, registering. You can't make mistakes.
I know.
If you make a mistake on it, you're starting again. So lots of clients will come to me and say, look, can you please do it, because we don't want to make any mistakes because it'll just get rejected. You're having to do the whole thing again.
Right, okay. That's really important advice that Nasreen has given. And as I say, I've done it online. I know I just need to register it. And you need to find people that you trust who can make the decisions on your behalf when you can't make decisions. So you need trustworthy people, that you really trust and you care, and you know that they will make the right decisions for you. We could talk about all of these issues much, much longer. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I hope you found the subject today of some interest. And please, please, please make sure that you protect yourself and your families moving forward, because this is something that everybody is going to be affected. Inshallah, I'll see you next week. In the meantime, take care. May Allah be with you and Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.